He pushed a diner napkin across the prison table. 3 words, cramped and desperate, like they'd been written with his breath held. Dad, check attic. His wife was the empty chair beside him. Her last message for my son was louder than any goodbye. I wasted 6 years on a criminal. I folded the napkin once, like a warranty I meant to enforce. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. Logan looked smaller than I remembered. Not weaker. Smaller, like the walls had been pressing in on him for 8 months straight. The orange jumpsuit didn't help. Neither did the fluorescent lights that made everyone look like they were already fading. She came once, he said, staring at his hands. Right after the sentencing. Told me she couldn't waste her life waiting for a convict. I kept my face neutral. Inside, something cold and methodical was already turning over, clicking into place like the safety mechanisms I used to check on construction sites. You don't react when a beam starts to crack. You measure, you document, you fix it. Emily's staying at her brother's place downtown, Logan continued. Travis got her some consulting gig. She wouldn't even look at me when she left. Travis Grant, finance VP, the kind of guy who wore Italian shoes to site inspections and complained about the dust. I'd met him twice at family dinners. Both times he'd corrected my grammar and explained market strategies I hadn't asked about. The napkin, I said. What's in the attic? Logan's eyes flicked to the guard by the door, then back to me. I started keeping backups. Not on the cloud, physical stuff. After the audit flags started coming up wrong, I knew something was off. I hid copies of everything I could grab before they seized my computers. Everything? Transaction logs, access records, screenshots of the system admin portal. There's a flash drive in a manila folder inside the old Christmas box. Left corner, under the insulation. Officer Granger, the younger guard, shifted his weight, but didn't interrupt. He'd been decent to Logan from what I'd heard. Let him make an extra phone call once when Kate had been in the hospital for her gallbladder. Small kindnesses in a place built to strip them away. Your lawyer know about this? I asked. No, I didn't trust anyone after Emily. His voice cracked. Dad, I didn't take that money. I swear to you I didn't. I believed him. Not because I was his father, though that helped. I believed him because I'd spent 30 years watching men lie about safety violations, and Logan had never learned to lie well. He couldn't even bluff at poker. I'll check it, I said. The drive home took 40 minutes. Kate was waiting in the driveway when I pulled up, arms crossed against the October wind. She'd seen the look on my face before I even cut the engine. What did he say? I handed her the napkin. She read it twice, then looked at me with that expression she got when she was already 3 steps ahead, planning contingencies I hadn't thought of yet. We need to document everything we find, she said. Timestamps, photographs, chain of custody. If this goes anywhere, we can't give them a single reason to throw it out. This was why I married her. Kate could have run a law firm if she'd wanted to. Instead, she'd spent 20 years managing logistics for a medical supply company, turning chaos into spreadsheets and making sure nothing ever fell through the cracks. We went inside. The pull-down ladder to the attic groaned when I unfolded it. Dust motes swirled in the weak afternoon light coming through the small window. The Christmas box was exactly where Logan said it would be, buried under pink insulation that made my forearms itch. The manila folder was thin. Inside, a flash drive, 8 pages of printed spreadsheet screenshots, and a handful of photos that looked like they'd been taken with a phone pointed at a computer screen. Timestamps in the corners, user IDs, access logs showing administrative corridors into Logan's company system. Kate stood at the base of the ladder with her phone out, recording. Read the label on the folder, she said. I angled it toward the light. Someone, Logan probably, had scrawled 3 references in blue pen. G. Ledger East Lewis is T. Grant. Lewis Brooks? Kate asked. Logan's old friend, the one who stopped calling after the arrest. And T. Grant is Travis. I climbed down, folder in hand. We need to copy this. Twice. Hash the files. I want a notary signature on a receipt with the file checksums before we do anything else. Kate was already pulling up the number for the notary 3 blocks over. I'll call ahead. We can be there in 15 minutes. I looked at the folder again. The edges were crisp, like Logan had bought it new just for this. The flash drive was a cheap, generic model, the kind you'd pick up at a convenience store. But the data, that could be everything. Or it could be nothing. Either way, I was going to find out. We imaged the drive on my old ThinkPad first, then on Kate's laptop. The files matched. Transaction records, server logs, emails Logan had screenshotted before his access was revoked. Kate wrote down the SHA 256 hashes by hand, while I double-checked them on her machine. The notary, a woman named Mrs. Chen who'd worked in the neighborhood for 20 years, raised an eyebrow but asked no questions. She signed the affidavit, stamped both copies, and logged the hashes in her records. "One copy stays with me," she said, sliding it into her safe. "That's how this works." "Perfect," Kate said. We were back home 30 minutes later. Kate made coffee while I started reading through the files. Most of it was technical: system logs, API calls, transaction batches. But one folder caught my eye. Admin Access, December. I opened it. The logs showed external access to the company's financial system on 4 separate dates in December, each one corresponding to a major fund transfer that Logan had been blamed for. The user credentials were listed as Logan's, but the IP addresses didn't match his home or office. They matched a subnet registered to Grant Holdings, Travis's company. I was still staring at the screen when Kate set a mug down next to me. "What is it?" "Someone logged in as Logan from Travis's office. 4 times. Moved money each time." "Can you prove it wasn't Logan?" "The timestamps. Logan was in Portland for a trade show during 2 of these. I remember because he called me from the hotel to complain about the conference keynote." Kate pulled out her phone and opened the calendar she kept synced with Logan's. December 8th and 9th. He flew out on the 7th, didn't get back until the 10th. And these transactions happened on the 8th. So either Logan learned to teleport, or someone else used his credentials. Kate sat down across from me, her expression sharpening. "We need to be smart about this. If you walk into a police station right now with a flash drive and a theory, they'll pat you on the head and send you home. Then what? We build a case they can't ignore. Redundancy, witnesses, a paper trail so clean they'd look like fools not to follow it." She was right. I'd seen it 100 times on job sites. Inspectors ignoring obvious problems because the documentation wasn't perfect, because the contractor had a good reputation, because it was easier to look the other way than to fight. This time, the documentation would be perfect. I was about to say so when headlights swept across the front window. A car slowed in front of the house, then stopped. Kate moved to the window, pulling the curtain back just enough to see. "Police," she said. My stomach dropped. "Already?" 2 officers got out, both in uniform. I recognized one of them, Detective Marlowe, mid-50s, the kind of cop who dotted every I and never rushed a case. The other was younger, a woman I didn't know. Kate opened the door before they could knock. "Mr. Hollis," Marlowe said, "we need to ask you a few questions about items removed from your son's property earlier today." "I haven't been to Logan's house," I said. "We received a tip that you removed evidence related to an ongoing investigation." "From who?" "Anonymous." Kate stepped forward. "Do you have a warrant?" "No, ma'am. We're just here to talk." I looked past him to the street. No other cars, no backup units, just 2 cops following up on a tip that had come in. I checked my watch. Less than 90 minutes after I'd been to the attic. Someone had been watching. "I visited my son in prison this morning," I said carefully. "Then I came home. That's all." Marlowe studied me for a long moment. If you do come across anything you think is relevant to Mr. Hollis's case, you'll bring it to us. Right? Of course. He handed me a card. Call me if that happens. They left. I watched the taillights disappear around the corner, then turned to Kate. Someone knew I was going to that attic. Emily? Or Travis? Maybe both. Kate locked the door and closed the blinds. They're scared. That's good. Scared people make mistakes. They also get dangerous. Then we move fast. I looked at the folder sitting on the table, the flash drive next to it, Logan's handwriting on the label, 3 names, 3 threads to pull. The first thread was Lewis Brooks. I found him 2 days later at a site off Aurora Avenue, a mid-rise renovation job that was 6 weeks behind schedule. Lewis was working evenings now, side gigs to supplement whatever legitimate work he'd managed to scrape together after Logan's company collapsed. He'd always been good with electrical, the kind of guy who could troubleshoot a panel in the dark. He saw me coming and tried to disappear into the scaffolding. I followed. The framework was a maze of steel pipes and wooden planks, rising 4 stories up the side of the building. Safety netting hung loose in places. OSHA would have had a field day. I moved carefully, testing each board before putting my weight on it. Above me, Lewis was scrambling higher, looking back every few seconds like he thought I might sprout wings and fly after him. "Lewis," I called. "I just want to talk. I don't know anything." "Then you've got nothing to worry about." He reached a platform near the top and stopped, breathing hard. I climbed up after him, taking my time. When I got there, he was pressed against the building wall, hands shaking. "You knew Logan didn't take that money," I said. "I don't, Lewis. I found the files. I know about the access logs. I know about Travis. And I know Emily was involved." His face went white. "How?" "Logan kept backups. Smart kid. Smarter than the people who framed him." Lewis looked like he might be passing out. I pulled out my phone and set it on the platform between us, recording. "Tell me what happened." "I can't. Travis will what? Ruin you? You're already working side gigs on a half-finished building at 8 o'clock at night. How much worse can it get?" He was quiet for a long time. Below us, a forklift beeped as it backed up, loading pallets of drywall. The wind picked up, making the scaffold creak. "Emily came to me in November," he said finally. "Said she needed to borrow Logan's system credentials for an audit Travis was running. Compliance check, she called it. She had his password. She'd watched him log in 100 times. But she needed the second-factor codes. And you gave them to her. She said it was legitimate. She was his wife. Travis was family, I thought." He stopped. "I didn't know they were going to move money. I swear, I thought it was just an audit." "But you figured it out. After the arrest. I saw the transaction dates, saw the amounts. I put it together. By then it was too late." "Did you go to the police?" Lewis laughed, bitter and broken. "And say what? That I helped his wife commit fraud? I'd be in the cell next to him." "You still could be." "I know." He looked at me, eyes red. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Logan was my best friend, and I—" "Save it," I said. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to write down everything you just told me. Dates, times, what Emily said, what you gave her. Then you're going to sign it in front of a notary. Travis will come after me. Travis is going to have bigger problems." I picked up the phone. The recording was clear. His voice, his admission, the scaffolding creaking in the background. It wouldn't be enough on its own, but it was a start. Lewis wrote the statement that night at a 24-hour diner, his handwriting barely legible. Kate had called ahead to the same notary, who met us at her office despite the late hour. Mrs. Chen read the statement twice, asked Lewis if he was signing voluntarily, and stamped it without comment. "You're collecting quite a file," she said to me. "We're just getting started." Back in the car, Kate turned to Lewis. "You're going to need a lawyer. A good one. We'll help you find someone, but you have to stick to this story. No changing details, no backing out. I won't, he said. I can't keep living like this. We dropped him at his apartment and drove home in silence. It was past midnight. The streets were empty except for a few taxis and a Tesla that seemed to be following us from 3 cars back. I changed lanes. The Tesla changed lanes. Kate, I said. I see it. I took the next exit, then doubled back on a side street. The Tesla followed but kept its distance. When I turned into our neighborhood, it finally broke off, disappearing toward the highway. Get the license plate? Kate asked. Too dark, but I gotta look at the rims. Custom job. Chrome with black accents. We'll find it. Inside, I checked the locks twice and made sure the security camera in the garage was recording. Kate booted up her laptop and started drafting an email to a civil attorney she'd worked with years ago. What are you thinking? I asked. We don't wait for the police to act. We file a civil suit. Asset freeze, preservation order, force them to turn over devices and records. Criminal cases take forever. Civil cases move fast if you have the evidence. Do we? She looked at me over the screen. We're about to. The attorney's name was Michael Voss, and he worked out of a small office near Pike Place Market. I'd expected someone slick, the kind of lawyer you see on billboards promising millions. Instead, Voss was in his late 50s, wore a rumpled sport coat, and had a habit of clicking his pen while he thought. He read through everything we'd brought, the flash drive files, the notarized statement from Lewis, the access logs, the timeline Kate had built, cross-referencing Logan's travel with the fraudulent transactions. It took him 40 minutes. When he finished, he set the papers down and looked at me. This is good, he said. Better than most civil cases I see, but it's not airtight. What's missing? Kate asked. Direct evidence of intent. You've got Travis's IP address, you've got Emily's access through Lewis, but you need something that shows they knew what they were doing. A recording, an email, a witness who heard them planning it. Lewis's statement is good, but he's an accomplice. Any defense attorney worth their retainer will shred him on cross. We need corroboration. What do you suggest? I asked. Voss leaned back. We file for a preliminary injunction, freeze their assets, prevent them from moving money or accessing certain accounts. Then we file for a preservation order requiring them to turn over all devices and communications. They'll fight it, but if we can show the judge there's a legitimate threat of evidence destruction, we've got a shot. How long? 2 weeks to get a hearing, maybe 3. Logan's been in prison for 8 months. I know, but if you rush this and lose, you won't get a second chance. We do it right, or we don't do it at all. Kate and I looked at each other. She nodded. Do it, I said. Voss spent the next week preparing the filings. In the meantime, I went back to work. Short-term contract jobs, site safety inspections, the kind of thing that kept me busy without requiring much thought. It also put me near Lewis, who'd taken another evening shift at a warehouse renovation near the port. I didn't talk to him much, just enough to make sure he was still solid, still willing to testify if it came to that. He looked worse every time I saw him. Thinner, jumpy, like he expected Travis to walk through the door at any moment. Has anyone contacted you? I asked one night while we were checking a breaker panel. Emily called, left a voicemail. What did she say? That I should think carefully about who I trust. That mistakes can be forgiven, but betrayal can't. Threats. It sounded like advice. It wasn't. Lewis didn't argue. The preliminary hearing was set for November 7th. Voss filed the paperwork on a Monday. By Wednesday, we'd gotten a response from Amanda Reese, the attorney representing both Emily and Travis. The letter was 4 pages of aggressive legal language, accusing us of defamation, harassment, and malicious prosecution. It demanded we withdraw the filings immediately or face sanctions. Standard intimidation, Voss said when I called him. She's trying to scare you off. Is it working? Kate asked. Not even a little. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept running through the evidence, looking for holes, weak points, places where a good lawyer could punch through and collapse the whole thing. At 2 a.m, I gave up and went down to the garage to check the security camera footage from the past few days. Most of it was boring. Our cars coming and going, the neighbor's cat stalking birds, a delivery truck dropping off a package. But on Tuesday night, around 11, there was something else. A car pulling into our driveway, idling for 30 seconds, then backing out without anyone getting out. I rewound and zoomed in. It was a Tesla, chrome rims with black accents. I checked the timestamp, 11:47 p.m. Kate and I had been asleep. Whoever it was had been watching the house, making sure we knew they could get close whenever they wanted. I saved the footage to 3 separate drives and sent a copy to Voss. Then I called Hank Ruiz, an old co-worker who'd retired 2 years ago but still kept his hand in on small projects. Hank was built like a linebacker and had a voice that could stop a forklift at 50 yards. More importantly, he was the kind of guy who'd have your back in a tight spot without asking too many questions. "I need a favor," I said. "What kind of favor?" "The kind where you stand around looking intimidating." "I can do that." "When?" "Soon." 3 days later, Voss called. "We've got the hearing. Judge Porter. He's fair but strict. Everything has to be by the book. No surprises, no grandstanding. You bring the evidence, present it cleanly, and let him decide." "What are our chances?" 60-40. Maybe better if Reese overplays her hand. I took the afternoon off and drove to the prison. Logan looked better than last time. Or maybe I was just getting used to seeing him in orange. Officer Granger let us have an extra 10 minutes after I slipped him a quiet thank you for the phone call he'd allowed Logan to make to Kate. "What's happening?" Logan asked. I told him about the hearing, about Lewis's statement, about the access logs and the timeline. I didn't tell him about the Tesla or the threats. No point worrying him about things he couldn't control. "Do you think it'll work?" he asked. "I think we're going to make them sweat." "Dad?" He hesitated. "I know Mom's been helping with all this. Thank her for me." "You can thank her yourself when you're out." He wanted to believe that. I could see it in his face. But 8 months in a cell teaches you not to hope too hard. I left the prison as the sun was setting, the sky turning purple over the hills. On the drive back, I passed a billboard advertising a tech conference downtown. Seattle Innovation Summit, November 10th, 12. The keynote speaker's face was blown up 10 feet tall, grinning like he'd just solved world hunger. Travis Grant. I pulled over and took a picture of the billboard with my phone. Then I called Kate. "How much does it cost to sponsor a local business event?" "Depends on the level." "Why?" "Because I want to buy a ticket to Travis's big moment." Kate was quiet for a moment. "What are you planning?" "Nothing illegal." "That's not an answer. I'll know when I get there." She sighed. "Micro-sponsor packages start around 500. Gives you a badge, a table in the expo hall, and access to Q&A sessions. Do it. Ray." "We need leverage. Travis thinks he's untouchable. I want him to know he's not." Kate didn't argue. She knew better. The hearing was on a gray Thursday morning, the kind of Seattle weather that made everything look like it was filmed through a dirty window. Judge Porter's courtroom was small, wood-paneled, with an American flag in the corner and a clock that ticked too loud. Kate sat behind me in the gallery. Lewis was there too, looking like he might bolt at any second. Voss presented our case first, the access logs, the timeline, Lewis's statement, the notary affidavits. He spoke clearly, methodically, walking the judge through every piece of evidence like he was building a house from the foundation up. Amanda Reese objected twice, both times on procedural grounds. Porter overruled her without much deliberation. When it was her turn, Reese stood and launched into a speech about how this was nothing more than a grieving father's desperate attempt to rewrite history. How Logan Hollis was a convicted criminal trying to use his family to escape the consequences of his actions. How the so-called evidence was circumstantial at best and fabricated at worst. Mr. Brooks's statement is the testimony of an admitted accomplice, she said. He has every reason to lie to save himself. The IP addresses prove nothing. My clients work together, their systems are interconnected. And the timeline? Mr. Hollis's travel records don't prove he wasn't responsible for these transactions. He had remote access. He could have executed them from anywhere. Voss stood. Your Honor, the defense is engaging in exactly the kind of speculation they're accusing us of. The evidence shows administrative access from Mr. Grant's office using Mr. Hollis's credentials during times when Mr. Hollis was physically in another city. We're not asking you to convict anyone today. We're asking for an asset freeze and a preservation order to prevent the destruction of evidence while we continue to investigate. Porter tapped his pen on the bench. Ms. Reese, do your clients have any objection to turning over device logs and communications records? We object to the entire proceeding, Your Honor. This is a fishing expedition. That's not an answer to my question. Reese hesitated. We would need to review what's being requested. I'm sure you would. Porter looked at the papers in front of him. I'm granting a limited asset freeze on accounts directly connected to the disputed transactions. I'm also granting the preservation order. Both Mr. Grant and Ms. Grant Hollis will be required to turn over device access logs and any communications related to the financial systems in question. You have 10 days to comply. The gavel came down. Reese looked like she'd been slapped. Voss allowed himself a small smile. Outside, Kate squeezed my hand. That's a win. It's a start. Lewis was already gone, disappearing into the drizzle before anyone could talk to him. I didn't blame him. He'd just made himself a target. That night I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I played it back, Emily's voice was cold and controlled. This is a mistake, she said. You're hurting people who don't deserve it. Walk away and we can all move on with our lives. I deleted the message and blocked the number. Kate looked up from her laptop. What was that? Nothing important. But it wasn't nothing. It was confirmation that we were getting close. The Seattle Innovation Summit was held at a glass and steel conference center near the waterfront, the kind of place where startup founders pitched ideas to investors while pretending they weren't desperate for funding. I registered under my own name, no point hiding, and paid the micro-sponsor fee that got me a badge, a small table in the expo hall, and access to all the keynote sessions. Kate came with me, ostensibly to help with the booth. In reality, she was there to run tech support and watch my back. Travis's presentation was scheduled for 2 o'clock. By 1:30, the main hall was packed. Investors, entrepreneurs, tech journalists, people who'd paid $300 just to hear someone tell them the future was blockchain and AI. I found a seat near the middle, close enough to see, but not so close that I'd stand out. Kate positioned herself near the AV booth, where the sponsor access gave her a legitimate reason to be. At 2 o'clock, the lights dimmed. A video played, sweeping shots of Seattle, time lapses of code being written, inspirational music that sounded like it belonged in a car commercial. Then Travis walked on stage, all confidence and Italian leather, smiling like he owned the room. He probably thought he did. His presentation was smooth, 30 slides about growth strategies, market disruption, the importance of agile thinking. The audience nodded along, taking notes, snapping photos of the slides with their phones. Travis had charisma, I'd give him that. He made bad ideas sound brilliant and obvious solutions sound revolutionary. 25 minutes in, he opened the floor for questions. I raised my hand. Travis scanned the crowd and pointed at someone in the front row first, a woman asking about scaling operations in emerging markets. He answered with practiced ease, dropping phrases like synergistic growth and market penetration that meant nothing but sounded impressive. 2 more questions, both softballs, both answered with the same smooth confidence. Then he pointed at me. I stood. Ray Hollis, I'm a micro-sponsor today, but I'm here because I'm interested in accountability in financial operations. Travis's smile didn't waver. but something shifted in his eyes. Accountability is crucial. What's your question? I'm curious about internal access protocols, specifically how companies in your portfolio prevent unauthorized use of administrative credentials. The room went quiet. This wasn't the usual conference question. That's a broad topic, Travis said carefully. Perhaps we could discuss it after. I'll be specific then. If an executive had access to another company's financial systems, say through family connections, what safeguards would you recommend to prevent misuse? Travis's jaw tightened. I'm not sure I understand the scenario you're describing. Let me clarify. Kate had been waiting for my signal. Now she moved to the AV booth, where our sponsor access gave us limited control over the presentation system. The current slide, something about quarterly projections, dissolved. A new image appeared. It was a timeline, clean, professional, no names attached. Just dates, IP addresses, transaction amounts, and system access logs. The data from Logan's flash drive, presented as an anonymized case study. This is a pattern of administrative access from a corporate subnet, I said, my voice carrying across the room. 4 separate instances, each one corresponding to a significant fund transfer. The credentials belong to one person, the IP addresses belong to someone else. Travis's face had gone from confident to rigid. This is inappropriate. This isn't the forum for. You opened the floor for questions about financial accountability. I'm asking. A murmur rippled through the audience. Phones came out. Someone in the back row was recording. Travis looked to the moderator, a woman in a headset who seemed frozen. We need to move on. One more thing, I said. Kate cued the next slide. This one showed travel records, redacted but clear. Airline confirmations, hotel bookings, timestamps that put someone in Portland during 2 of the access events. If the person whose credentials were used was in another city during these transactions, what would you conclude? I'd conclude that someone is making baseless accusations in a public forum, Travis snapped. But security was already confused. I had a valid sponsor badge. I hadn't threatened anyone. I was just asking questions. Emily was in the 3rd row. I could see her now, rigid in her seat, phone pressed to her ear like she was calling for backup. Thank you for your time, I said, and sat down. The moderator stumbled through a transition to the next question, but the energy in the room had shifted. Travis finished the session 10 minutes later, his answers clipped and defensive. The moment he left the stage, Emily was up and moving toward the exit. Kate met me in the hallway. That was bold. That was necessary. You know they're going to retaliate. I'm counting on it. We left through the main doors, past clusters of attendees who were still talking about the Q&A session. I caught fragments of conversation. Who was that guy? Did you see Grant's face? Think it's real? In the parking garage, I checked the car for trackers and found nothing. Kate drove while I made notes on my phone, documenting everything that had happened, who'd been there, what was said, how Travis had reacted. Voss is going to be angry you didn't clear this with him first, Kate said. Voss will understand. Will he? We needed Travis rattled. Now he is. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You just made a serious mistake. I showed it to Kate. She shook her head. They're panicking. Good. At home, I forwarded the text to Voss along with a full debrief of the conference. His response came 20 minutes later. Creative, risky. Don't do it again without telling me first. Fair enough. The next morning, a package arrived at our door. No return address, just a manila envelope with my name printed on a label. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A cease and desist letter from Amanda Reese, demanding I stop making false and defamatory statements about her clients. I scanned it and sent it to Voss. His reply, ignore it, it's theater. But it wasn't just theater. That afternoon, someone leaked a story to a local tech blog. Disgruntled father disrupts innovation summit with conspiracy theory. The article painted me as a desperate man clinging to wild accusations, unable to accept that his son was guilty. The comments section was worse. Anonymous accounts calling me delusional, suggesting I needed psychiatric help, accusing me of harassment. Kate read the article over my shoulder. They're trying to discredit you before you can do more damage. Let them, we're not done. I called Hank. I need you tonight. Where? Industrial Park off East Marginal Way. Bring a camera. What are we doing? Watching. Hank didn't ask for details, he just said he'd be there. The industrial park was a strip of warehouses and container yards, most of them quiet after dark. I'd gotten a tip, anonymous, probably from Lewis, that Travis sometimes met with business associates in a storage unit he rented under a shell company name, the kind of meetings that didn't happen in glass conference rooms. Hank and I parked a block away in the shadow of a refrigerated truck depot. The air smelled like diesel and salt water. At 9:30, a familiar Tesla pulled into the lot. Travis got out first, then Lewis. My stomach tightened. Had Lewis flipped? They walked to a unit near the back. Travis unlocked it, and they went inside. Through the gap under the door, I could see light. You getting this? I whispered to Hank. He was already recording. His phone's camera zoomed in on the unit number and the license plate of Travis's car. 10 minutes passed. Then voices, raised, angry. You don't get to change your mind now. That was Travis. I didn't sign up for this. Lewis, higher pitched, scared. You signed up the moment you gave her those codes. You're in this whether you like it or not. I told the truth. I gave a statement. I can't take it back. You can if you want to stay out of prison. A crash. Something metal hitting concrete. Hank and I moved closer, staying low behind a row of pallets. The unit door was cracked open now, light spilling out. Travis was backing Lewis toward the wall. You think Ray Hollis cares about you? You're just a tool to him. The second this is over, you're nothing. But if you help me fix this, fix it how? Recant. Say you were pressured. Say Ray coached you on what to say. That's perjury? It's survival. Lewis was shaking. I could see it even from 20 yards away. Travis had him cornered, physically and legally, and Lewis looked like he was breaking. I stepped out from behind the pallets. Lewis, I called, walk away, now. Travis spun. His face went from shock to rage in a heartbeat. You're trespassing. We're in a public industrial park, and you just threatened a witness. I didn't threaten anyone. Hank, you hear any threats? Clear as day, Hank said, holding up his phone. Got it all on video, too. Travis looked at the camera, then at me. For a second, I thought he might rush me. He was younger, probably thought he could take an old man in a fight. But Hank stepped forward, 6'3" and 220, and Travis reconsidered. This is harassment, Travis said. This is evidence collection. Lewis pushed past Travis and walked toward me. He was crying, shoulders shaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He said if I didn't, it's okay, I said. You did the right thing. Travis's hands were clenched into fists. You have no idea what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. Emily's credentials, the access logs, you can't prove intent. A civil case won't put anyone in prison. Maybe not. But it'll ruin you in every other way that matters. Travis laughed, bitter, sharp. You think the investors care? You think anyone at that conference believed you? They'll forget about it in a week. Then I'll remind them. I nodded to Hank, and we left. Lewis came with us, sitting in the back seat of my truck with his head in his hands. Hank followed in his own car, the video already backed up to 3 separate cloud accounts. At a diner off Highway 99, we sat in a corner booth while Lewis drank coffee and tried to stop shaking. He's going to come after me, Lewis said. He's going to try, I corrected. But we've got you covered. How? Witness protection isn't just for mob trials. Voss will file a motion for a restraining order. Travis won't be allowed within 100 yards of you. What if he ignores it? Then he goes to jail. Lewis didn't look convinced, but he nodded. Hank ordered pie and made small talk about construction jobs, giving Lewis space to breathe. By the time we left, Lewis seemed steadier. Not okay, but functional. I drove him to a motel near the airport, paid for a week up front, and gave him cash for food. Stay here. Don't go home. Don't call anyone except me or Voss. What happens now? Now we finish this. Back home, Kate was waiting. I showed her the video. She watched it twice, her expression hardening with each replay. That's assault, she said, or close enough. It's leverage. It's more than leverage, Ray. This is the piece we've been missing. Travis just confessed on camera. She was right. In trying to intimidate Lewis, Travis had admitted to knowing about the credentials, the access, the whole scheme. He'd tied himself directly to the fraud. I sent the video to Voss with a brief summary. His response was immediate. This changes everything. I'm filing an amended complaint in the morning. We're going for full asset disclosure and a forensic audit. Will it be enough for criminal charges? I asked. Maybe. If the prosecutor's office sees this, they'll have to take it seriously. I leaned back in my chair, exhaustion settling into my bones. We'd been at this for weeks now, every day a new fight, a new risk. But we were close. I could feel it. Kate put her hand on my shoulder. You should rest. I will, after. After what? After Logan's free. She didn't argue. She knew me too well. The next morning, I went to see Mrs. Whitfield, our neighbor 3 doors down. She was 76, sharp as a tack, and spent most of her day sitting by the window with a cup of tea and a pair of binoculars she claimed were for birdwatching. You see a Tesla around here in the past few weeks? I asked. She didn't even hesitate. Dark blue one with fancy rims. Seen it 6 times. Once it parked right in front of your house for 20 minutes. Just sitting there. You remember when? 2 weeks ago, Thursday night. I wrote it down because it seemed odd. You wrote it down? I write everything down, dear. At my age, you don't trust memory. She handed me a small notebook. Sure enough, there it was. Dates, times, descriptions. Mrs. Whitfield had been documenting the Tesla's appearances like she was running surveillance. You're a saint, I said. I'm a nosy old woman. But if it helps Logan, I'm happy to be both. I thanked her and took photos of the relevant pages. Then I drove downtown to the conference center. The Innovation Summit had ended 2 days ago, but the building's security office was still open. I explained that I was following up on a sponsor inquiry and needed to verify parking records for the event. The security manager, a tired-looking guy in his 30s, pulled up the logs. What date? November 10th. He scrolled through the records. Tesla, you said? Dark blue, custom rims. Got 2 matches, one registered to a Travis Grant, the other to an Emily Grant Hollis. Can you print those for me? He hesitated. This is kind of irregular. I paid the sponsor fee. I'm entitled to verify security protocols for my own records. It was nonsense, but he was too tired to argue. He printed the logs and handed them over. Emily's Tesla had been in the parking garage from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock on the day of Travis's presentation. She'd been there, watching. Armed with the parking logs and Mrs. Whitfield's notebook, I met Voss at his office. He reviewed everything, then looked at me with something close to admiration. You should have been a paralegal, he said. I like building things. You're building a case, and it's a good one. Good enough? For a civil judgment? Absolutely. For criminal charges? He hesitated. The prosecutor will need to see this, along with everything else. But yes, I think it's enough. 2 days later, Judge Porter issued an order requiring Travis and Emily to turn over all devices and communications related to the financial systems in question. They had 72 hours to comply. Amanda Reese filed an emergency motion to quash the order. Porter denied it. The deadline came and went. They didn't comply. Porter issued a contempt order. Travis and Emily had 5 days to appear in court and explain why they shouldn't be sanctioned. That night, My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "You're going to regret this," Emily's voice, tight with fury. "I already regret not acting sooner. Logan is guilty. He took that money. You're wasting your time. If he's guilty, the evidence will show it. But if he's not, you don't know what you're doing. Travis has connections. He can make your life very difficult." "He's already tried. It didn't work." She hung up. Kate looked at me. "They're desperate." "Good. Desperate people make mistakes. Or dangerous choices. Let them." The contempt hearing was scheduled for November 20th. Before then, I needed one more piece. Something that would make it impossible for Travis and Emily to deny everything. Something that would force the prosecutor's hand. I needed video evidence of Emily's involvement. Lewis gave me the address, an apartment building in Capitol Hill, where Emily had moved after leaving Logan. He'd been there once, back when they were all still pretending to be friends. He remembered the layout. Second floor, corner unit, door facing the elevator. "There's a camera in the hallway," he said. "Building security. Cheap system, but it records." "How do I get access?" "You don't. But the building manager might, if you give him a reason." The building manager's name was Derek Fan, and he was suspicious the moment I walked into his office. I didn't blame him. I was a 62-year-old man asking about security footage for an apartment I didn't live in. "I'm going to need more than curiosity," he said. I showed him the court order, the one requiring Emily to preserve evidence. "I have reason to believe she removed items from another property in violation of this order. I'm not asking you to give me the footage. I'm asking you to preserve it and verify whether it exists." Derek read the court order twice. "This is above my pay grade." "Then call your boss." He did. 20 minutes later, I had a formal receipt confirming that security footage from the date of Logan's arrest, the day Emily had cleaned out his house, had been preserved and would be available under subpoena. It wasn't the video itself, but it was proof the video existed. Voss filed the subpoena that afternoon. 3 days later, the video arrived. It was grainy, black and white, the kind of footage that would never make it into a Hollywood movie. But it was clear enough. Emily, entering her apartment building at 2 p.m. on the day of Logan's arrest, carrying Logan's laptop and a box of files. The timestamp was undeniable. The items were unmistakable. Logan had been in custody when the video was taken. Emily had removed evidence from his house and transported it, straight to the address where Travis's shell company rented a storage unit. I watched the video 3 times. Then I sent it to Voss. His response, "This is it. This is what we needed." Kate watched the video over my shoulder, her hand tight on my arm. She didn't just abandon him, she destroyed him. And now we're going to return the favor. The contempt hearing was anticlimactic. Travis and Emily showed up with Amanda Reese and a second attorney, a man with silver hair and a briefcase that probably cost more than my truck. They filed a motion to delay, citing technical difficulties with accessing certain devices. Judge Porter wasn't interested. "You've had 3 weeks and multiple extensions. The court has been more than patient. If you can't produce the requested materials today, you'll be held in contempt and fined $1,000 per day until compliance." The silver-haired attorney tried to object, but Porter cut him off. "This isn't a negotiation. Produce the evidence or face the consequences." Travis and Emily huddled with their legal team. The conversation was heated, whispered, punctuated by sharp gestures. Finally, Amanda Reese stood. "Your Honor, my clients will comply within 48 hours. 24, Porter said. "And if I find any evidence of data destruction or tampering, I'll refer this matter to the prosecutor myself." We left the courthouse in silence. Voss looked pleased but cautious. They're going to scrub everything they can before turning it over. Can they get away with that? Not if the forensic team is good. Deleted files leave traces, so do cover-ups. And if they're smart enough to hide it? Then we use what we already have, the video of Emily removing the laptop, the access logs, Travis's admission on camera. It's enough to create reasonable doubt about Logan's guilt, which might be enough to get his conviction overturned. Might? Voss stopped walking. Ray, I need you to understand something. Even with all this evidence, the system moves slowly. Logan's case will need to be reviewed, appealed, potentially retried. It could take months, maybe longer. He's been in there 8 months already. I know, and I'm going to fight for him every step of the way. But you need to be prepared for this to take time. I looked at Kate. She nodded, her face set. We'll do whatever it takes. Good, Voss said. Because Travis isn't going to roll over. He's going to fight this until the end. Travis fought. Over the next 2 weeks, his legal team filed motion after motion, objections to the subpoenas, challenges to the chain of custody on Lewis's statement, demands that the video of Emily be excluded on privacy grounds. Judge Porter denied most of them, but the delays added up. Meanwhile, I kept working. Small jobs, site inspections, anything that kept me close to the ground and connected to people who might have useful information. One of those people was a tech consultant I'd met years ago at a safety seminar. Her name was Priya Kapoor, and she specialized in digital forensics. You need someone who can read data the way you read blueprints, she said when I called her. Someone who can show that what looks clean is actually full of holes. Can you do that? If the data's there, I can find it, but it's not cheap. How much? She quoted a number that made me wince. Kate saw my face and took the phone. We'll pay it, she said. When can you start? Priya started the next day. Voss arranged for her to receive copies of the devices Travis and Emily had finally turned over. 2 laptops, 3 phones, and an external hard drive. Priya worked out of a small office in Fremont, surrounded by monitors and equipment that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi movie. This is going to take a few days, she said. Maybe a week. I'll call you when I have something. While Priya worked, I focused on the last piece of the puzzle. Public disclosure. Voss had been clear that anything we did outside the courtroom could backfire, but I wasn't planning to break any rules. I just wanted to make sure that when the truth came out, people were paying attention. I reached out to the business reporter who'd been at the Innovation Summit, a woman in her 30s named Jessica Rourke who wrote for a local tech news site. I didn't give her any documents or make any accusations. I just told her that there was a civil case involving financial fraud, that evidence was being reviewed, and that she might want to keep an eye on the court filings. Is this about the guy who disrupted Travis Grant's presentation? She asked. I'm not disrupting anything. I'm answering questions. She laughed. Off the record, are you going after him? I'm going after the truth. If that leads to Travis, then yes. On the record? When the time's right. Jessica agreed to monitor the case. She didn't promise to write anything, but I could tell she was interested. 2 days later, Priya called. You need to see this. Kate and I drove to her office. She had 3 monitors running, each one displaying streams of code, file directories, and metadata. I didn't understand half of it, but Priya walked us through it with the patience of a teacher explaining basic math. Travis's laptop was wiped 3 times in the past month, she said. Professional-grade scrubbing. But he missed something. What? Cloud backups. Specifically an old Dropbox account he forgot to delete. It synced automatically until about 2 weeks ago, when he finally remembered to close it. But the files were already there. She pulled up a folder. Inside were dozens of documents, emails, spreadsheets, memos. Most of it was boring business correspondence. But one subfolder caught my eye. Temporary access, LRH, Logan Ray Hollis. Priya opened the folder. Inside were screenshots of Logan's financial system, time-stamped from December. There were also notes, handwritten, scanned, detailing how to access the system using Logan's credentials. Is that Emily's handwriting? Kate asked. I can't confirm that without a sample, Priya said. But whoever wrote these notes had intimate knowledge of Logan's login process. And look at this. She opened an email. It was from Travis to Emily, dated December 5th. The subject line read, "Confirm LRH access window." The body was short. "Need final confirmation on access for 12/8 and 12/9. Can you ensure credentials are active? Audit requires full transparency into transactions." Emily's response, "Confirmed. Lewis has the codes. We'll coordinate." I felt my jaw tighten. This was it. Direct communication between Travis and Emily about using Logan's credentials. Proof of coordination, proof of intent. "Can this be admitted as evidence?" I asked. "It's from a cloud account registered to Travis," Priya said. "Obtained legally through the court order. Any decent lawyer can get it admitted." I called Voss from the parking lot. He listened as I explained what Priya had found, his silence stretching out until I thought the call had dropped. "Voss?" "I'm here. This is exactly what we needed. I'll file an amended complaint immediately. We're adding wire fraud, conspiracy, and perjury to the civil claims, and I'm sending everything to the prosecutor's office today." "What are the chances they'll act on it?" "With this, high, very high." I hung up and looked at Kate. She was smiling, the first real smile I'd seen from her in weeks. "We're going to win," she said. "Not yet, but we're close." That night I visited Logan again. The prison felt smaller this time, or maybe I was just too full of momentum to notice the walls. Logan looked tired, but he perked up when he saw me. "What's happening?" he asked. I told him everything, the emails, the cloud backups, the coordination between Travis and Emily. I told him about Priya's forensic work, about Voss filing the amended complaint, about the prosecutor's office reviewing the case. Logan's eyes filled with tears. "Do you really think—" "I don't think. I know. You're going to get out of here." He wiped his face with the back of his hand. "How long?" "I don't know. Weeks, maybe. But it's happening." When I left, Officer Granger pulled me aside. "I heard some of what you said in there. I hope it works out. Logan's a good kid." "He is." "You're a good father." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The prosecutor's office called Voss 2 days later. They wanted to meet. Voss, Kate, and I sat in a bland conference room with Assistant District Attorney Helen Kovach, a woman in her 40s with a reputation for being tough, but fair. "I've reviewed your materials," she said. "The emails, the access logs, the video. It's compelling." "Compelling enough to reopen Logan's case?" I asked. "Compelling enough to investigate. I can't promise anything beyond that." "What about charges against Travis and Emily?" "We're considering it. Wire fraud is federal, so that's outside my jurisdiction, but I can pursue conspiracy and accessory charges if the evidence holds up." "It will," Voss said. Kovach looked at me. "Mr. Hollis, I need to ask, have you or anyone acting on your behalf engaged in any illegal activity to obtain this evidence?" "No, everything we have was obtained through legal subpoenas, voluntary statements, or publicly accessible records." "And the video of Mr. Grant in the industrial park?" "We were in a public space. We recorded a conversation that happened in our presence. No wiretapping, no trespassing." Kovach nodded. "All right. I'll recommend that the state's attorney review Logan's conviction for potential reversal. In the meantime, I'll begin building a case against Mr. Grant and Ms. Grant Hollis." Kate squeezed my hand under the table. "How long will this take?" I asked. "Months, at best. The wheels of justice turn slowly. Logan's been in prison for 8 months. He's already paid for an offense he didn't commit." "I understand. I'll do everything I can to expedite the process." It wasn't the answer I wanted, but it was progress. Over the next week, things moved faster than I expected. Voss filed a motion for Logan's immediate release pending the review of his conviction. The motion included Priya's forensic report, the emails from Travis's cloud account, and Lewis's corroborated statement. Judge Porter scheduled a hearing for December 3rd. In the meantime, Travis and Emily went silent. No more threats, no more letters from Amanda Reese. It was like they'd disappeared. "They're preparing," Voss said, "building their own defense, or they're planning to run." "Can they run?" "Not legally. They're under court order to stay in the jurisdiction. If they leave, it's contempt at minimum, possibly obstruction." I hired Hank to keep an eye on Travis's office and Emily's apartment. He reported back every day. No unusual activity, no signs of packing, no sudden travel plans. "They're still here," he said. "But they're quiet. Too quiet." The hearing on December 3rd was standing room only. Word had gotten out, not through any leaks, but through the normal channels of court filings and public records. Jessica Rourke was there, taking notes. So were half a dozen other reporters, plus investors who'd been at the Innovation Summit and wanted to see how the story ended. Logan was brought in wearing his orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed. He looked thin, pale, but his eyes were clear. When he saw me and Kate, he smiled. Voss presented our case methodically. The emails, the forensic evidence, Lewis's statement, backed up by the video of Travis threatening him. The access logs showing that Logan was in Portland when the transactions occurred. The video of Emily removing Logan's laptop on the day of his arrest. Amanda Reese objected repeatedly, but her arguments felt hollow. The evidence was overwhelming, and Judge Porter's patience was wearing thin. Finally, Porter called a recess. 30 minutes later, he returned. "I've reviewed the evidence presented today, as well as the materials filed in the civil case. Based on what I've seen, there are serious questions about the integrity of Mr. Hollis's conviction. I'm granting the motion for immediate release pending a full review by the state's attorney. Mr. Hollis, you're free to go." The courtroom erupted. Logan's cuffs came off. He walked toward us, stumbling slightly, and Kate pulled him into a hug. I put my hand on his shoulder, unable to speak. Travis and Emily were gone. They'd left before the ruling, slipping out through a side door. Outside, Jessica Rourke approached me. "Mr. Hollis, can I ask you a few questions?" "Make it quick." "What's next for you?" "Next, I'm going to make sure Travis and Emily answer for what they did." "Do you think they'll face criminal charges?" "I know they will." She smiled. "That's a hell of a story." "It's not over yet." Logan rode home with us, sitting in the back seat with his face pressed to the window, like he'd forgotten what the outside world looked like. Kate held his hand the whole way. When we got home, she made coffee and sandwiches while Logan sat at the kitchen table, crying quietly. "I can't believe it's real," he said. "It's real." "How did you—" He stopped, shaking his head. "I don't even know where to start." "You start by living your life. The rest we'll handle." But I knew it wasn't over. Travis and Emily were still out there, and they weren't going to accept defeat quietly. 2 days later, I got the confirmation. They were planning something. The tip came from Lewis. He called me at 6 a.m, voice shaking so hard I almost couldn't understand him. "They're leaving," he said. "Emily called me last night, tried to convince me to recant my statement. Said if I did, they'd make sure I didn't go down with them." "Where are they going?" "I don't know, but she mentioned liquidating assets, moving money offshore. Ray, I think they're going to run." I thanked him and hung up. Then I called Voss. "If they're liquidating assets, we need an emergency injunction," he said. "I'll file this morning. But Ray, if they're serious about running, they might be gone before the court can act. Then we need to stop them ourselves. Don't do anything stupid." "I won't." I hung up before he could argue. Hank was at Travis's office by 8. He called me an hour later. "Travis just left with 2 suitcases, heading south on I-5. Follow him, I'm on my way." I grabbed Kate and we took her car, less conspicuous than my truck. Hank stayed 3 cars back, feeding us updates every few minutes. Travis was driving fast, weaving through traffic, clearly in a hurry. "He's headed for the airport," Hank said. "SeaTac? Looks like it." We pushed through traffic, ignoring speed limits, praying we wouldn't get pulled over. By the time we reached the airport, Travis's Tesla was already in the parking garage. Hank spotted him heading toward the terminal, suitcases in tow. We parked and followed on foot. Inside, Travis moved quickly through the departures hall, scanning the boards for his flight. I hung back, trying to stay invisible. Kate kept her phone out, recording. Travis reached the security checkpoint. That's when I moved. "Travis Grant!" I called. He turned, his face going white. Around us, travelers stopped and stared. I walked up to him, close enough to see the sweat on his forehead. "Going somewhere?" "This is harassment. This is a public airport, and you're under court order not to leave the jurisdiction." "I have a business meeting." "With luggage? 2 suitcases for a business meeting?" Airport security was moving toward us now, drawn by the commotion. Travis tried to push past me, but I didn't budge. "You can't stop me," he said. "I don't have to. They will." I nodded toward the security officers. One of them, a woman with a radio clipped to her belt, stepped forward. "Is there a problem here?" I pulled out the court order Voss had given me, the one requiring Travis to stay in Washington pending the resolution of the civil case. "This man is under a court order not to leave the state. I believe he's attempting to violate that order." The security officer read the document, then looked at Travis. "Sir, do you have documentation showing you're allowed to travel?" Travis's jaw worked, but no words came out. "I didn't think so," I said. The officer spoke into her radio. Within minutes, 2 more officers arrived. They escorted Travis to a private office, his suitcases trailing behind him. I watched him go, feeling a grim satisfaction settle in my chest. Kate touched my arm. "Emily?" "Still out there." We left the airport and regrouped with Hank in the parking lot. He'd already sent the video of Travis at the terminal to Voss, along with a summary of what had happened. "What about Emily?" Hank asked. "Lewis said she was liquidating assets. She's probably at a bank, or maybe her lawyer's office. Want me to check her apartment?" "Do it. Call me if you see anything." Kate and I drove back downtown. My phone rang as we hit the I-5 merge. Voss. "Judge Porter just granted an emergency injunction," he said. "All of Travis and Emily's accounts are frozen. They can't move a dime without court approval. Travis tried to fly out this morning. Airport security stopped him." "I heard. The prosecutor's office is filing obstruction charges. He's not going anywhere now." "What about Emily?" "Still looking for her." I hung up and called Lewis. Where would Emily go if she was trying to disappear? Her brother's storage unit, maybe, or... He paused. "There's a place in Bellingham, a cabin her family owns. She used to talk about it." "Address?" He gave it to me. I plugged it into the GPS. 2 hours north. "Ray!" Kate started. "I know. But if she's there, we need to move now." We called Voss and told him where we were going. He wasn't happy, but he didn't try to stop us. "If you find her, don't engage. Just call the police and let them handle it." "Sure," I said. Kate shot me a look. "You're lying." "Maybe." The drive north was tense. Traffic thinned out as we left the city, the landscape shifting from urban sprawl to farmland and forest. The cabin was near the Canadian border, tucked into a wooded area off a gravel road. We parked a quarter-mile away and walked in. The cabin was small, maybe 1,000 square feet, with a sagging porch and moss growing on the roof. Emily's car, the dark blue Tesla, was parked out front. "She's here," Kate whispered. "Stay back. I'll check it out." "Like heck you will." We approached together, moving quietly across the gravel. Through the front window, I could see movement. Emily, pacing back and forth, phone pressed to her ear. I knocked on the door. The movement inside stopped. Then footsteps, quick and light. The door opened a crack, and Emily peered out. "You," she said. "Me. Get off this property." "This is your family's cabin, right? Owned by a trust, which means it's subject to the asset freeze. You're not supposed to be here." Her face twisted. "You've ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything. You did." She tried to close the door. I wedged my foot in and she shoved harder, cursing. Kate pulled out her phone and started recording. "Get out!" Emily screamed. "Not until you answer some questions. I don't owe you anything. You owe Logan 6 years of his life. You owe him an apology. You owe him the truth." "The truth?" She laughed, high and brittle. "The truth is that Logan was a terrible businessman. He was going to lose everything anyway. Travis just accelerated the process by framing him for fraud, by making sure someone competent was in charge of the money." I stared at her, trying to process the sheer coldness of it. "You destroyed him." "I saved myself." Kate stepped forward, phone still recording. "You took his laptop the day he was arrested. Why?" Emily's eyes flicked to the camera, then away. "I don't have to answer that." "You already did. We have you on video." Her face went pale. You can't." "We can, and we will." For a moment, I thought she might run. Her eyes darted to the car, calculating distances. But then she seemed to deflate, sinking down onto the porch steps. "It doesn't matter," she said quietly. "Travis has connections. He'll make this go away. Travis is in custody. He tried to flee the state. The prosecutor's filing obstruction charges. He'll get bail. Not this time." Emily put her face in her hands. Kate kept recording. "Tell me why," I said. "Why Logan? Why not just leave him?" She looked up, and for a second I saw something that might have been regret. But it passed quickly. "Because Travis needed someone to take the blame, and Logan was convenient. Convenient. Naive, trusting, the perfect patsy." I felt my hands clench into fists. Kate put a hand on my arm, steadying me. "You're going to prison," I said. "Maybe. But so will Lewis. He's an accomplice." "Lewis cooperated. He'll get a deal." "And me?" "You'll get what you deserve." I called the police. They arrived 20 minutes later, 2 county sheriffs who took statements and escorted Emily back to Seattle. She didn't say another word, just stared out the window of the patrol car as they drove away. On the way home, Kate and I stopped at a diner. We didn't talk much. There wasn't much to say. The pieces were in place. The evidence was overwhelming. Now it was just a matter of letting the system do its work. "Do you think she meant it?" Kate asked. "About Logan being naive?" "I think she needed to believe that. Otherwise, she'd have to admit she married a good man and chose to destroy him." "Do you think she'll testify against Travis? If it saves her?" "Absolutely." Kate nodded. "Then it's over." Almost. There was still one thing left to do. Travis posted bail 3 days after his arrest. The charge was only obstruction, so he went home on a $100,000 bond while his lawyer, Amanda Reese, spun it as a misunderstanding. But investors fled, clients canceled, and his reputation crumbled. Hank kept watch on him. Travis spent his days in brief office visits, mostly with lawyers. "Give it a week and he'll crack," Hank said. I didn't have a week. A smaller follow-up innovation summit was scheduled for mid-December, and Travis was still on the guest list. Jessica Rourke confirmed it. We decided that would be the place to expose him. Kate secured us entry under a friendly investor. When Travis arrived, he looked worn down. After a few short startup pitches, he took the stage, trying to address the controversy. Someone shouted, "You mean fraud charges?" And the room tensed. I stood. Travis froze when he saw me. Kate switched the presentation screen to the first piece of evidence, Travis's email to Emily asking her to confirm Logan's credentials, subject line, "Confirm LRH access window." Then came the backup folder labeled, "Temporary access, LRH," and Emily's reply confirming Lewis had the codes. Phones came out. The room buzzed. I explained, Logan went to prison for fraud Travis committed. More slides followed, including video of Emily carrying Logan's laptop the day of his arrest. Amanda yelled about legal violations, but the damage was done. Jessica questioned Travis on record. He dodged, claimed context, then refused to answer without his attorney. Investors began leaving. Kate cut his microphone. Hank blocked his exit. I placed 2 documents before him, one forcing Emily to surrender claims to Logan's assets, the other requiring Travis to submit to a third-party audit. Sign, or we send the full evidence package. Kate held her phone, email drafted. He signed both. Kate hit send. 47 recipients received the file. Authorities arrived soon after. Prosecutor Helen Kovach charged Travis and Emily with wire fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction. Lewis got immunity. Logan's conviction was vacated and his record cleared. Investors sued. Jessica's article went viral. Travis took an 8-year plea deal. Emily got 6. Logan moved back home. We helped him clean the house of Emily's traces. On a January morning, we sat on his porch. He thanked me for giving him his life back. I told him he'd have done the same. We weren't unscarred, but we survived. And sometimes that was enough.